Hello everybody, my name is Freaksy and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I want to talk about something that I've been noticing recently, and the more I look into it, the weirder it actually gets. Consoles are meant to get cheaper over time, right? Like, that's how it's always worked. They come out, they're expensive for a bit, and then after a few years, you can pick up one for way less. But that doesn't seem to be actually happening anymore. The PlayStation 5 has gone up mid-generation, which is just not normal. So yeah, in this video, I really want to break down what's going on, why the prices are rising, and what it actually means going forward for gaming. So, to start off this video, I wanted to talk about the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and compare what has happened to their prices compared to the previous console generation. Let's start off with the PS5. When this launched in 2020, the disc edition of the PlayStation released at £450 or $500, with the digital edition releasing at either £359 or $400. This was the base entry point for this generation. But instead of those prices dropping over time like we used to see, something unusual has happened. In 2022, Sony actually increased the price for the PlayStation in multiple regions. In the UK, it went up to £479 for the disc edition, and for the digital, it went up to £389. At this point, the US model actually stayed a very similar price. And then, at the end of 2024, Sony introduced their mid-generation premium model, the PlayStation 5 Pro, which launched at around £600 or $700. So instead of actually replacing the old price model with a cheaper version over time, they actually added a more expensive tier on top. Then now, coming into the modern day of 2026, the prices for the PlayStation has increased even further. In the UK, we are looking for the price of the PS5 base model to be anywhere between £549 to £569, with the digital edition being anywhere from £449 to $519. And then when we look at the US picture, the disc edition is around $499 to $550, with the digital edition being anywhere from $400 to $500. So, the interesting thing is there is a clear difference. In the UK, there is a clear upward movement with the price of the PlayStation. And in the US, it has been mostly flat, but again, you would expect after this many years of the console being out that there would be some sort of price drop within the console itself. So then, moving on to the Xbox prices, the Xbox Series X launched at £450 or $500. And here's the key thing that's different to the PlayStation. These prices have actually been very stable. There has been a small increase in some regions, but generally, you're looking at around £479 to £500 in 2026 for an Xbox. Or in the US, you're looking at around a $500 to $550 price range. So instead of, again, like the PlayStation going down like previous generations, the prices either stayed stable or gone up for both of these consoles. So then, if we compare this to last generation, the PlayStation 5 launched at £350 or $400, and over time, that price consistently dropped. £300, £250, finally £200. Similarly, in the US, it dropped to $350, $300, and finally to $200. And then the Xbox One. This launched at £429 or $500. After some early backlash compared to the price of the PlayStation 4, this console also dropped in price, looking at £350, £300, £250. Similarly, in the US, it went down to $400, $350, and finally down to $250. And for me, that's the key difference of these generations. Last generation rewarded you for waiting, and this generation hasn't. I think it's absolutely crazy that the PlayStation 5 is more expensive than actually when I bought it around launch, and I really don't think this is a great thing for gamers, especially ones who are just looking to get into the hobby for the first time. So, why is this actually happening and the prices of these consoles are not going down? It has come down to a lot of wider economic pressure. Everything costs more. Manufacturing, shipping, energy, components. And the modern consoles are far more powerful and expensive to produce than before. You're basically getting a PC level hardware in a console now. On top of that, global demand for chips, especially from AI in the tech industry, is also pushing up prices. Additionally, I think that Sony and Xbox's business plans might have changed slightly as well. With previous generations of consoles, we've seen that them being sold at either a loss or just to break even. And then their real moneymaker is selling games on the platform as well as additional controllers and things like this. But I think that with how expensive hardware has become, I think they are looking to kind of make a profit on the console and then also look to make a profit on the games and other things you can buy externally to that as well. But I understand that they are a business and they have to make money, but some of the prices have just become absolutely crazy. Furthermore, game prices have also gone up slightly, but not in the same way. £70 is now a standard AAA game price, but they haven't jumped dramatically beyond that. Because companies do not slowly rely on games anymore to make sales, they use DLC, microtransactions, battle passes, and free-to-play ecosystems. So the cost can also be spread out instead of being done up front. However, I just think that personally, this isn't good enough. I don't think that a company should be able to release games, even that they're classed as AAA, and then be able to release all sorts of microtransactions and battle passes when you're paying a premium price. For example, something like Call of Duty releases at a premium price every year, but then also has battle passes and things like this, which are additional money makers. When you think about it compared to old games in the past, this is not good at all. And the worst part about it is, especially with how digital everything is happening, game prices when they release are coming down at an extremely slower rate compared to what we were used to as well. And for me, that means personally that the quality of game that can be released is a lot less as well now, because people were still going to have to pay that money and they know that it's not going to go down as quickly. And for me, that paints the whole picture. It's not just the console. You've got things like we mentioned previously, the controllers, full price digital games, but also you've got things like your online subscriptions, PlayStation Plus, Xbox Game Pass, things like this, which maybe can save you money like with the Game Pass, but also it's another expense per month to play these games. That £500 can easily become over £800 over time if you're not careful with your spending. And I think that's something that is crazy, is that in the past, you could buy the console, you just need one controller and the game, and you can have hours of fun. But with some of these games, you need their huge storage, so you're going to have an external storage, and then the price of them is crazy, so you have to pay a price. And then if you want to get some of their in-game things, you need to buy the Battle Pass to get all the exclusive stuff. For me, it's not good enough at all, and I really think something needs to change. So, not every company is actually following this trend. The Nintendo Switch has stayed relatively stable in price for years, and the Steam Deck offers a completely different approach entirely. More flexibility, cheaper games, and no mandatory subscriptions for basic use. So while the consoles are getting more expensive, on the positive note, there are more options coming out there. For me personally, I believe that Valve and Steam are really going to be the pushing player, and really to prove to other companies that you don't need to have these expensive consoles and then offer all of these expensive add-ons as well. And I think that they're going to really capture a big part of the market, as when they do release the Steam machine, it's going to have that ability to sell to multiple different people. So people who play on console will be able to play on their home TV in their living room. Then they will have the ability, if they have a computer, they can also download Steam there and access their games. And also give them the option to have a handheld device like a Steam Deck if they really wanted to try out playing games in a different way. I also think it's cool how Steam and their Linux-based operating system they use for the Steam Deck, for example, has now been allowed to come out on different sort of third-party platforms that you would maybe use for Android emulation and these sort of things. So I really think that Steam and Valve are really releasing a way to play games on all different consoles in all different ways, and it's not about the console they're making, as long as they're accessing their platform and making and playing and buying the games through their platform. So I'm hoping that in the future, Steam can really show other companies how it's do it and set a precedent so that they can't hopefully charge people ridiculous prices for too much longer. So, are consoles still worth it? They are still definitely the easiest point to get into gaming. They are still way cheaper than the high-end gaming PC, but they are no longer the cheap option that they used to be. They are moving more into a premium space. which isn't something that necessarily is bad, as it means hopefully, as long as we keep up with game developers being able to give us high quality games, and people like Sony and Microsoft are giving us quality platforms that are always up to date, then hopefully it can be a great thing. But for me, as somebody who grew up with not a lot, I totally understand that these price increases and premium price consoles are not great and do not make the hobby accessible to everybody, which is for me not great, as I know there are millions of people out there who love gaming but probably can't access these consoles due to the price, and that's just not fair for me personally. So, looking ahead to the future of consoles, I think with Microsoft and Xbox, they're going down a bit of a different path, as I don't think they're going to be making a next big generation console to compete next to the PlayStation 6. I believe they will make some sort of handheld console that might be able to be docked like the Switch, and then they also look for other manufacturers who might be able to use the Xbox OS and use that within a more powerful console, and do something similar to the Steam Machine and the Valve OS that they're using Linux for, to put their OS onto different consoles as well. But for the PlayStation 6, I personally think that PlayStation have won this generation of consoles, but I could easily see their next console being between £600 and £800, with more digital focus, more subscriptions, and less actual ownership on the games and things you own. Which for me is worrying, but as times get harder and get easier, I'm sure things will change, and hopefully in the future we're going to get cheaper consoles with better games and hopefully better subscription deals as well. Because at the end of the day, consoles used to get cheaper over time, and now they don't. And that is a pretty big shift for gaming, and unfortunately one I don't think is going to change anytime soon. Hopefully I'm wrong, and that the next generation of consoles is going to be a lot cheaper and more accessible, but with how the world is going, I'm not so sure. However, we can always keep positive and look for great deals, and if you definitely spend your money wisely and look for good deals, you can still get some really great value for money gaming accessories and things like that. But for me personally, I just think people in these next generations and next years are going to have to be very careful with who they commit their money to and which sort of console and generation they pick, as the majority of people are not going to be able to buy both an Xbox and a PlayStation, for example. So they're going to have to really choose where they purchase and buy their games in the future. So, thank you very much, everybody, for listening to my opinions on what I think is going to be happening with consoles in the next couple of years, and what I think about the current structure and pricing models of the current consoles we have available to us. If you have enjoyed this video, I really would appreciate if you could drop me a subscribe and maybe check out some of the other videos on my channel and give this one a like. I really hope I'll catch you again in another video. Again, thank you very much for watching. My name is Freaksy, and I hope to catch you all in the next video.